In 1776, a small group of colonies on the eastern coast of North America declared independence from the most powerful empire on Earth. Nobody believed they would survive. But 250 years later, that same nation controls the world's largest economy, the most powerful military in history, and influences every corner of the globe. This is the complete story of the United States of America. Long before the United States existed, the land was home to millions of Native Americans, hundreds of tribes, each with their own language, culture, and civilization. Then, in 1607, the first permanent English settlement was established at Jamestown, Virginia. It nearly failed. Disease, starvation, and conflict killed most of the settlers within the first year. But they survived. Over the next 150 years, 13 British colonies grew along the eastern coast, tobacco plantations in the south, trade and fishing in the north, and a growing population that began to think of themselves not as British, but as something new. By the 1760s, tension with Britain was rising. The colonies were taxed heavily, yet had no representation in the British Parliament. No taxation without representation became their cry. On July 4th, 1776, the 13 colonies signed the Declaration of Independence. It was one of the most dangerous documents ever written. Every man who signed it was committing treason against the British Crown, punishable by death. The Revolutionary War lasted 8 years. The Continental Army, led by George Washington, was outnumbered, underfunded, and outgunned. They lost battle after battle, but they never gave up. In 1781, with crucial help from France, American forces defeated the British at Yorktown. The war was over. The United States of America was born. The new nation faced an immediate problem. How do you govern a country that has never existed before? In 1787, the Founding Fathers wrote the Constitution, a revolutionary document that would become the foundation of American democracy. It created 3 branches of government, separated powers, and protected individual rights. George Washington became the first president in 1789, but the new nation was also built on a dark foundation: slavery. Millions of African Americans were enslaved, working on plantations across the South. This contradiction, a nation founded on freedom but built on slavery, would eventually tear the country apart. Meanwhile, America expanded rapidly westward. The Louisiana Purchase of 1803 doubled the size of the country overnight. Settlers pushed further and further west, often violently displacing Native American tribes from their ancestral lands. By 1850, the United States stretched from the Atlantic to the Pacific. By 1860, the question of slavery could no longer be ignored. When Abraham Lincoln was elected president, 7 southern states immediately seceded from the Union, forming the Confederate States of America. The Civil War began in April 1861. It was the deadliest war in American history. Over 620,000 soldiers died, more than in any other conflict America has ever fought. Entire cities were burned. Families were torn apart. Brother fought against brother. In 1863, Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing enslaved people in Confederate states. In April 1865, the Confederate Army surrendered. The Union was preserved. But 5 days later, Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. After the Civil War, America transformed at breathtaking speed. Railroads connected the continent. Steel mills roared. Oil fields erupted. Inventors like Thomas Edison and Alexander Graham Bell changed the world forever. Massive fortunes were built. John D. Rockefeller controlled 90% of America's oil. Andrew Carnegie dominated steel. J.P. Morgan controlled banking. Millions of immigrants poured in from Europe, Irish, Italian, Polish, Jewish, all searching for a better life. New York City became the gateway to the American dream. By 1900, the United States had become the world's largest economy, surpassing Britain, France, and Germany. America was no longer just a nation. It was becoming a world power. When World War I began in Europe in 1914, America stayed out, at first. But in 1917, after German submarines attacked American ships, the United States entered the war. Fresh American troops turned the tide. Germany was defeated in 1918. Then came the Roaring Twenties, jazz, prosperity, and optimism. Then came the Great Depression. In 1929, the stock market collapsed, banks failed, millions lost their jobs, families starved. It was the worst economic crisis in American history. President Franklin D. Roosevelt launched the New Deal, massive government programs to rebuild the economy. Then, on December 7, 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. America entered World War II. For 4 years, American soldiers fought in Europe and the Pacific. On June 6, 1944, D-Day, American and Allied forces stormed the beaches of Normandy in the largest military operation in history. Germany surrendered in May 1945. Japan fought on. And so, in August 1945, President Truman made the most controversial decision in history, dropping atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Japan surrendered. World War II was over. America emerged as the most powerful nation on Earth. But a new threat emerged, the Soviet Union. For 45 years, two superpowers faced each other in a dangerous standoff, the Cold War. Nuclear weapons capable of destroying the world pointed at each other. The space race, the Korean War, the Cuban Missile Crisis, 13 days in 1962 when the world came closer to nuclear war than ever before. The Vietnam War, 58,000 Americans died in a conflict that divided the nation. The Civil Rights Movement, Martin Luther King Jr., and millions of Americans fighting for equality and justice. The assassination of JFK, the moon landing, Watergate. America was changing, struggling, fighting, evolving. Then, in 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed. The Cold War was over. America stood alone as the world's only superpower. The 1990s brought prosperity and the rise of the Internet. Silicon Valley transformed the world. Microsoft, Apple, Google, Amazon, all American. Then came September 11th, 2001. Terrorist attacks killed nearly 3,000 Americans and changed the country forever. Wars in Afghanistan and Iraq followed, the longest wars in American history. In 2008, the financial crisis nearly collapsed the global economy. In 2008, Barack Obama became the first African-American president, a moment unimaginable just decades earlier. Social media, smartphones, polarization, a global pandemic, political division, America in the 21st century is a nation still defining itself. From 13 struggling colonies to the world's most powerful nation, from slavery to a black president, from near collapse to global dominance. The story of America is not a perfect story. It is a story of contradictions, freedom and oppression, innovation and destruction, unity and division. But it is one of the most extraordinary stories in all of human history, and it is still being written. Subscribe to History Drop for more world history every week.